Mechanical X, and today we're going to be talking about some of the theropod dinosaurs that inhabited the Morrison Formation. The Morrison Formation, which straddles the middle of the American West and records a 10 million year span of time that lasted from about 156 to 146 million years ago, is famous for having the greatest abundance of dinosaur biodiversity, not only in the Western Hemisphere, but also of the Jurassic period, which lasted from about 201 to 143 million years ago as a whole. The largely seasonal or semi-arid riverine or floodplain environments preserved in the formation were inhabited by a plethora of herbivores. These included giant long-necked sauropods such as Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, Camarasaurus, and Diplodocus, two-legged ornithischians such as Captosaurus, Dryosaurus, Phytodens, and Dinosaurs, and armored four-legged diarrheophorans such as Gargoliosaurus, Myurapelta, and the famous Stegosaurus. And preying upon these herbivores were a wide variety of carnivorous theropods. They came in many shapes and sizes, and avoided competition with each other by inhabiting different environments and occupying different niches. Now, the dinosaur has straddles the bottom of this picture, and by far the single most common predator of the Morrison is Allosaurus. Allosaurus had an average length of 8 to 9 meters long, weighed about 1 to 2 tons, and it had large grasping talons on its forelimbs that are used for restraining prey, serrated teeth, and wide gaping jaws, situated upon an S-shaped neck that could be thrust up and down to deliver a series of rapid bites, had stout legs with hoof-like claws that enabled this two-crested carnivore to run across long distances for ambush attacks. There have been three species of Allosaurus inhabiting this formation. A fragilis is the most common. A Jamatsini is the oldest, since it lived during the first few million years of the Morrison. And A. anax is the largest species, hailing from the southernmost parts of the formation, measuring up to 10 meters long, and was long considered to be the species called Saurophaganax maximus for decades, until a recent study last year the remains found out that they, in fact, belonged to a Apatosaurian sauropod, and the allosaurid bones were assigned into a new species of Allosaurus. And just above the Allosaurus is Ceratosaurus nasicornis. Ceratosaurus is known for having deep jaws with long, blade-like teeth, small forelimbs, a deep tail, and rows of osteoderms, or bony scutes, running down its neck, back, and tail, which could indicate that it was a strong swimmer that could potentially swim across the rivers and lakes, and three crests on top of its head that, just like those of Allosaurus, were most likely used for display, as with instances of male Ceratosaurus courting females. Fossils of various aged Ceratosaurus individuals also showed that as these dinosaurs grew, their crests grew in size as their bodies became thicker, their legs shrank, and their skulls got deeper and bigger in size. Ceratosaurus occupied a different habitat from that of Allosaurus, inhabiting the forests of conifers, cycads, ginkgos, and tree ferns that were close to bodies of water, whereas the latter was largely confined to the vast fern prairies that were teeming with large sauropods and stegosaurs. And it also lends its name to the Ceratosauridae, a family stubby-armed, deep-headed, and sometimes osteoderm-covered theropods that were once widespread throughout the Jurassic and includes later dinosaurs such as the small Brazilian Bartosauria of the early Cretaceous and the Balesaurids that roamed across much of the southern hemisphere during the Late Cretaceous. A recent study made 5 years ago of an unusually large number of theropod tooth marks in the Minegap Moor Quarry near the Utah-Colorado border, attributed to either Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, or the much larger Torvosaurus, indicates that in the midst of a drought that saw a dwindling of food resources, large congregations of stressed Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus would have fought each other over scavenged herbivorous dinosaur remains, or even cannibalized each other outright in fights over scavenged theropod remains. A similar instance occurred with the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry in Utah, in which large numbers of herbivores gathered at a floodplain during a drought, died of thirst, and were in turn preyed upon by large congregations of hungry Allosaurus that would in turn cannibalize younger individuals of their own kind as the droughts worsened. Right above the Ceratosaurus is Hesperornithoides, a coelurosaur or feathered theropod that is also the first basal troodontid ever to have been found outside of Asia, where troodontids and ceratopsians are known to have evolved during the middle of the Jurassic. It also happens to be the smallest theropod of the Morrison, with a length of about 1 meter long, and by far the most recently described. It was found in 2019 by British paleontologist Dean Lomax and colleagues. Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus, and Ornitholestes were all described in the last few decades of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, and Marchosaurus and Tarbosaurus were both described more than a century later. Hesperornithoides inhabited a floodplain environment with few trees and would have been a possibly nocturnal animal that hunted arthropods and small vertebrates such as frogs and lizards, and lived in the shadow of much larger dinosaurs such as the giant sauropod Supersaurus. Situated to the left of Hesperornithoides is Marchosaurus, which is by far the smallest large theropod of the Morrison. Marchosaurus measured 4 meters long and is a member of the Pianintskysauridae, a unique family of Jurassic theropods inhabiting the Western Hemisphere and Asia that possessed physical features common to both Allosaurids and Megalosaurids. This could indicate that the Pianintskysaurids might have diverged from the common tentanuran ancestor of both Allosaurids and Megalosaurids early during the Jurassic. Marchosaurus would have preyed upon very small juvenile sauropods and small ornithopods such as Dryosaurus and Anasaurus, and it might have also overshadowed large theropods such as Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus by going over the scraps they've left behind, just like jackals do on the African savanna today. Situated just under the Marchosaurus is Ornitholestes, one of the few coelurosaurs or feathered theropods that inhabited the Morrison alongside others such as Hesperornithoides and Tanacologrus, and it was larger than the former with a length of 2 meters. Ornitholestes might have inhabited the lands between the conifer forests and the fir prairies and would have preyed upon small vertebrates such as amphibians, lizards, mammals, and hatchling dinosaurs. And based at the top is Torvosaurus tenori, which with a length of 9 meters long and weighing at 2 to 2.4 tons, was perhaps the largest theropod of the Morrison Formation, assigned to few potentially large species of or specimens of Allosaurus, and is one of the few megalosaurid specimens ever to have lived in the Western Hemisphere, while most other megalosaurids, including the famous Megalosaurus, are largely confined to Europe and Africa, and the ancestors of Torvosaurus tenori might have crossed a land bridge from Europe into North America a few million years earlier, as there is a species of Torvosaurus named T. gournei that inhabited Portugal in the Lourinhã Formation at around the same time. Torvosaurus had long jaws, armed with conical teeth and small but very powerful arms with grasping claws, and it would have inhabited the forested areas alongside Ceratosaurus, since both theropods are thought to have had lower, more flexible bodies for moving through the dense forested areas in order to avoid any competition with Allosaurus. As the largest predator of the Morrison, Torvosaurus would have been preying upon many of the same herbivores as Allosaurus, such as sauropods and ornithischians, but rather than directly going after the healthy, fully grown members of the giant sauropod populations, they would have instead preferred to prey upon the sick, old, weak, and subadult individuals, as they were all easier targets were the two large theropods to pick on. The theropod dinosaurs of the Morrison Formation occupied a wide variety of ecological niches and habitats in order to avoid competition with each other, and their prey changed depending on their size. But smaller theropods, such as Hesperornithoides and Ornitholestes, hunting smaller prey items, such as arthropods and smaller vertebrates, while larger theropods, such as Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus, went after larger prey items, such as ornithopods, sabadult sauropods, and stegosaurs, and they moreover played an integral role in contributing to the great diversity of dinosaurs that has made the Morrison Formation famous among paleontologists and paleontology enthusiasts to this day. I hope you liked this presentation. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like these and learn a thing or two from them, and I'll see you soon.